And guess who crept in while I was delivering that sensational monologue? It was the one and only Tim Montgomerie. Welcome, Tim.
Oh, it's always good to be here, Kevin.
You made it just in time.
I've been downstairs in Times Radio.
I know you have.
Yeah.
Why do you waste your time there? I really, I honestly can't.
It's always the build-up to what I really want to be with you.
Yeah, it's a rehearsal.
It's a rehearsal.
It's a rehearsal.
Yeah.
Well, look, some good political stories that right up your street to get our teeth into over the next 60 minutes, Tim. And first off, it is the ongoing saga of the man they're now calling Long Haul Hoyle, Lindsay Hoyle's Just Stop Hoyle. Now, he's been under a lot of fire the last few weeks over a story that you and I have discussed several times, that he spent £250,000 worth of taxpayers' money on his own, on his parliamentary travel around the world, globe-trotting trips to glamorous places, knocking up thousands of pounds for chauffeur-driven cars, even chartering a private jet at one point, going to Gibraltar 4 times, Los Angeles, Australia, the Cayman Islands. We can't quite work out what all these trips are for, but to what I've been saying, and I think you sort of semi-agree with me, is the public have got a right to know how he justifies these trips. Yeah. So what we would like in an ideal world is a representative of the people, someone in the House of Commons, to stand up and say, Mr. Speaker, I really do think you need to explain what's been going on here. But of course, can we find a single MP to make such a gesture? 650 of them, not a single one will say a word against the Speaker because, of course, they're petrified of getting on his wrong side. Then he won't call them to make their little speeches that they think will propel them into high office, you know, get noticed on the backbenches, all of that. You don't offend the Speaker in the House of Commons. You stay on his right side. But I think that this has brought us to a tricky impasse, because I think we do have a right to know exactly what he's been doing on these trips. Why did he rake up £23,000 going to the Cayman Islands? What on earth was he doing there? You know, why did he spend thousands and thousands of pounds on chauffeur-driven limousines in Los Angeles, on Australia? Why did he charter a private jet in Montserrat? We need to know these things. Why did he take his wife with him when he went to Gibraltar? These weren't even officially parliamentary trips, but he took his staff along, so we ended up paying for parliamentary workers to go to the Rock. You know, we need an explanation. There needs to be an investigation into this guy, and yet we're not going to get one because no MP will call for it. Meanwhile, we now learn, and this strikes me as a retaliatory tactic on the part of Mr. Hoyle, or Sir Lindsay, as I should call him. He is letting it be known that he fears there is a plot by a cabal of militant Labour MPs trying to oust him because he's not woke enough. I suspect there may be many MPs who want to get rid of him, because they're Labour MPs in particular, because they realise that the optics of this are very bad for the government. He is a Labour man. He's spending thousands, $250,000 of our money, and this sounds to me like he's trying to sort of say, oh, they're trying to get rid of me because I'm not woke enough and I'm not militant enough. Well, you know, maybe that's true. I suspect if there's any kind of plot against him, it's because Labour MPs are very worried about the money he's spending.
Absolutely.
And therefore, again, we find ourselves in this tricky situation that a man whose travel should be investigated, the people have a right to know. It looks as if we won't get that. And now he's putting around these, or it looks as if his office is putting around these stories. Oh, no, it's only because I'm traditional Labour. I'm Conservative with a small c. No. I think this is a very awkward situation, and I think the people deserve some kind of explanation as to why this guy's been spending so much of our money.
100%. And, you know, do you remember when Michael Martin was the former Speaker?
Goebbels Mick.
He got a sort of quite indulgent, really, of MPs and expenses. And it took someone like Douglas Carswell, he was then a backbencher MP, who was really unafraid of anything. He was the one that sort of broke that consensus. But one thing, sort of dimension of this that I'm worried about, Kev, is that We've also looked at, when we've had some of our times together, we've looked at the huge expenses of Labour ministers, for example, on their flight bills.
Yes.
David Lammy and others, racking up huge amounts of money at taxpayers' expense when they said that they would cut these bills. Now, of course, a Conservative MP, a Reform MP, a Liberal Democrat MP, who now calls on the Speaker to have an emergency statement, for example, on the expenses of Labour ministers, is at the back of the Speaker's mind thinking, do I really want to grant this emergency question? Because if there's going to be sort of questions in the House about expenses abuse, are they going to be coming for me next? Will they come for me in that question period? So there's a real conflict of interest actually developing here that really needs to be exposed, because the Speaker may now be not granting emergency debates on matters of real public interest because he doesn't want the next person to be in line to be himself over his own expenses questions.
Indeed. Lots and lots of questions need to be asked, and as I say, it presents a real problem when the person in the frame is the Speaker, because we've got 650 MPs. I guarantee you every single one of them is going, what the hell is the Speaker doing in South Africa, St Helena, Australia, Los Angeles at the taxpayers' expense? What the hell is he doing? But not a single one of them will speak up against the man who calls them to make their speeches. So democracy is really being dished a disservice here.
Yeah, but I think there is an opportunity, I think, for one MP to actually look like we would highlight him or her, wouldn't we? If they sort of stood up in the House of Commons and asked the questions that everyone's asking. When we've had our discussions that we've had here on social media, the clips of these discussions have really taken off. People are very exercised by this question of what Sir Lindsay Hoyle has done. So one MP, that they may lose a bit of favour with the Speaker temporarily, but actually the public sort of support they might get for bravely asking questions that no other MP will ask, and we would give them the attention if they weren't called in the House of Commons. We would back them, wouldn't we? We would give them absolutely cover. So there's an opportunity. There's an opportunity for one MP to bravely come out and ask the questions we all want answered. 19
glamorous trips, always to nice places like the Caribbean. I went there twice, Los Angeles, Australia, Cayman Islands, as I said. Always nice places. He went to Gibraltar 4 times, where he is the Chancellor of the local university.
Lovely post to have.
I mean, he said that he had to amend his records after it was revealed that he took his wife on several of these trips. So presumably that's because we didn't have to pay for his wife. But he did take his staff, so we would have had to pay for them. And I'm wondering why we had to pay. If we had to pay for him, I think, again, we're owed an explanation, because him being Chancellor of the University of Gibraltar, very esteemed position, of course, but it's nothing to do with Parliament. So I hope we didn't pay for him. He did say he amended his records. Something is not right here, folks, and I want to hear what you think about this. Don't we have the right to know how Sir Lindsay Hoyle justifies his globe-trotting trips around the world? 19 very glamorous trips in 2 years. On one of them, when he went to South Africa, he was actually on his way to St Helena, which is a sort of British province in the middle of nowhere in the middle of the Atlantic. But he stopped off in South Africa for 4 days with his team, and nobody knows what they did for those 4 days. I mean, it could be that the planes were such that he had to wait or something, but what did they do in those 4 days? And on that trip, by the way, he got to the airport and he took a lot of luggage. This was an airport in Britain. Excess luggage. They said, well, if you want to take all this luggage, it's 500 quid extra. He paid, or rather we paid, 500 quid for his extra luggage. Is that being responsible with taxpayers' money?
No. Is this something to do with the Speaker's regalia that he has all this excess baggage? I don't know the answer. Maybe there are some good explanations for some of these questions, but if there's no procedure, there's no mechanism for which we can ask these questions, you're undoubtedly, in the absence of answers, we're going to speculate, because This is taxpayers' money involved, and a lot of it, not small amounts of money.
Yeah. And what is it about these speakers? Because the other expenses that he's racked up, not directly, I suppose, down to him, but they sort of are. He had his palatial apartment in Westminster, where the Speaker resides, said to have the best view of any residence in all of London. He had that done up, renovated, £7 million.
As you do.
And he also organised of himself, and these people have got such high opinions of themselves, a massive sort of stately portrait, £36,000, which is now hanging in the corridors of power at Westminster. So a lot of money going south thanks to Sir Lindsay, and we are not getting any answers. Do you think, folks, that we deserve them? We do, don't we? And can we get a single MP to raise the issue? I was thinking, Tim, you know that Bob Dylan song, great line, when you got nothing to lose?
Yeah, yeah.
Rupert Lowe, why doesn't he bring this issue up?
He'd be superb. It seems to be pretty fearless. Yeah,
yeah. I think that's one for Rupert. If you're watching, Rupert, England expects. So when we come back, let me know what you think about Lindsay's lavish spending. He's